Hey, it's Alex Williams of the New Stack. Welcome to the New Stack Makers, a podcast where we talk about application development, deployment, and management at scale. The Cloud Foundry Foundation is an independent nonprofit organization formed to sustain the development, promotion, and adoption of Cloud Foundry as the industry standard platform for cloud applications. Cloud Foundry is an application platform. It provides a choice of clouds, developer frameworks, and application services. Cloud Foundry makes it faster and easier to build, test, deploy, and scale applications. It's an open source project and is available through a variety of private cloud distributions and public cloud instances. Learn more at cloudfoundry.org. Hey, it's Alex Williams of the New Stack. It's the lunch hour at the Cloud Foundry Summit in The Hague. For people listening to this show, it is really busy here, isn't it?
Very, very crowded today.
Yeah, and compared to the Basel event, it just seems a lot bigger, a lot more energy. So this podcast is going out at a later date, but I want to just kind of give some picture for what's going on here. I'm here right now with Lukas Lehmann, who just was commenting on the busyness here. He's a lead cloud services. He leads the cloud services team at Swisscom. And Stefan Voegele, who is an expert middleware engineer at Swiss Re. And our focus for this discussion is on at-scale development using Cloud Foundry and looking at it through the eyes of a telecom and how Swisscom has developed this platform. And so I wanted to discuss that. I also would like to hear how Swiss Re is using the Swisscom services. First of all, we started our conversation before we went on the air, remembering when you used to order VMs and such.
No, yeah.
Does it seem that long ago?
Well, I mean, for us, it's still not completely over, to be honest. But this I could well remember. 3 years ago, there was no cloud offering we were using in Swiss Re, so it was still the traditional IT.
Now, Swisscom is one of the earliest users of Cloud Foundry, and that must have been the beginning of that transformation from being so client-server dependent to one that's more abstracted.
Absolutely. And I mean, besides being the largest telecommunication company in Switzerland, we are also one of the largest IT provider in Switzerland. And helping our customers and ourselves in the digital transformation is key to us. This is why such a platform and being involved in such an ecosystem is very important for us.
It must be. And I think about kind of how you've developed. I want to talk about Swisscom App Cloud, and it has a history to it, doesn't it? Tell us about its beginnings. And because now it's based on open source Cloud Foundry, it's both a public and a virtual private cloud offering, which I know that's something that Swiss Re uses. And it really does leverage your virtual machine environments, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then starting back then, we were running on OpenStack actually. Right at OpenStack. Now we have mostly everything else sourced internally at VMware with VMware infrastructure. So 2 years ago, we started big migrations to having everything moving seamlessly to VMware, and now we run completely on VMware, and we have some instances running on some public clouds.
So tell me about that migration. What was required as part of that migration?
So required of that migration was really that we have this multi-cloud setup, that we could stretch our Cloud Foundry installation over multiple different IaaS installations basically, and with that we could availability zone by availability zone migrate that stretched Cloud Foundry over from one infrastructure to another infrastructure.
Well, what were some of the aspects of that were challenging? I mean, you did it by availability zone. Did you choose that process for a reason?
Yes, absolutely. To have the rolling change so that there is always something online and we are not offline at any given time.
That was
very important. I think thanks to Bosch, this was even possible. Without Bosch, we would have, I don't know how we would have solved this actually, because having treated those VMs as such ephemeral as they are, and that VM management, that was just a perfect tool to do this.
So what is it about Bosch that made it so effective? Is it the resilience?
I think it's the resilience and the operability. I mean, we have over 15,000 VMs that are operated just by dozens of people, because it just runs seamlessly, and you change something on your manifest and that then upgrades the whole installation, and it just goes on. You can put it perfectly in your pipeline. So managing VMs at such a massive scale was not possible before, and Bosch has given us this tool.
What scale are we talking about?
So roughly 16,000 VMs.
Okay. And Bosch had that scalability with it.
Yes.
What could you do on OpenStack? Was it a fraction of that in terms of the VMs you could manage?
No, we could manage the same amount of VMs. That was not the problem. It was more that we had to move to VMware because we used an SDN layer Plum Grid that was bought by VMware. So that brought us the transition to VMware.
I see. Okay. So Stefan, you are a customer of Swisscom. How do you work with Swisscom? Tell me about how it is that your organization is built from a development IT perspective, and how that, and how you work in the Swisscom environment with the Swisscom App Cloud.
So we have so-called business domains with their own IT departments. Each domain has its own IT department and developers. And what we do basically is we kind of integrate the offering from Swisscom into our landscape, so people can use App Cloud or the Cloud Foundry offering as it comes from Swisscom, one-to-one. But we also have some certain integrations built on top when it comes down to governance, or let's say change and service management topics, which we had to kind of cover from Swiss Re side. And then actually what it means for the developers is that they can much more focus on their developer work, so they can code, and they do not have to care about the infrastructure, and that makes it much more productive.
Yeah, I imagine so. So App Cloud has gone through some transformations in itself. Tell us about the older versions of App Cloud. How is it made? How is it managed? How is it architected, and how has it changed?
Yeah, so since the beginning we are running on the open source version of Cloud Foundry, and with that in itself there are a lot of transformations ongoing. Remembering back then we had the Garden as the container orchestration, so that was built in, running as a single instance on top of our OpenStack offering back then. So we had the transformation on one side within Cloud Foundry, all these components changing from Garden to Diego, and also surroundings, the log aggregator, log cache, and all those things, and our infrastructure change that we had. And in addition, we had to build the integrations around, speaking about the portal, speaking about the billing, speaking about some services which just makes developers' life easier, like an AD federation service where they have in a marketplace directly the corporate identity service integrated, that they can easily do an authentication within their application with just 2 mouse clicks, which was before a pain to get the key and integrate that in your application. It's like, really for us, it's making the developer's life easier. And then this is the transformation we're in on. It's constantly listening to what should we do, what can we do, and what is really the pain, where can we shorten this process to bring something to production.
So I'm looking at this presentation that's going to be given here at the event by one of your colleagues. and now it had been local services before, and now we're moving to more centralized services. What's the difference? Tell me a little bit about the difference.
Yes, so here what you saw on that slide is basically, so we have built the Swisscom application cloud where you have Cloud Foundry, and besides that you have the services, the service marketplace, as every Cloud Foundry developer knows it, with RabbitMQ, MongoDB, Elastic, and like the main services that are needed for such an offering. And those services were specifically built into the network of this enterprise customer or of the public customer so they could use it. And now, besides having the application cloud, we also have other cloud offerings, which our enterprise service cloud, which you can provision your VMs. And they more and more also have the need to basically have a managed MongoDB or have a managed MySQL. So that means we have now a centrally with Bosch managed environment where the different clouds can provision via the open service broker such instances and profit from that.
So it's a platform as a service, essentially.
Yes, that's what we can tell you.
And so tell me then about the Swiss Re. How are you leveraging this centralized service, and how is it a change for you?
Well, it's much more easy to get a service up and running like a database or like a messaging service. Before, it was this typical ordering process. If you want to have something like a messaging service, you ordered this piece and you have to wait for it until it was installed and configured for you. And nowadays you can have that out of the box from the platform by some clicks, or by even because we have automated deployments, you can have that by a small declaration in a manifest file, and you get this service provisioned automatically at runtime, basically.
Yeah.
So it's much more easy to consume such services, to persist data or to.
I see the value of Bosch for Swisscom. Is there value for Swiss Re with Bosch?
Well, I mean, not directly, but indirectly, we profit or we benefit from how Swisscom can upgrade the platform. For example, without, let's say, any outage. So they can upgrade Cloud Foundry basically at any time, and we can run our business at the same time. So it's not going to stop the platform if they do maintenance.
It's our job to manage the complexity for you.
Exactly, that's why it's so nice, because these topics are abstracted from us, basically.
It's less complex for you, but it must mean more complexity.
Absolutely, and this is what differentiates us a lot from the other users around here. We as a service provider have often different challenges than if you can just spin up a Cloud Foundry installation for your user and for your internal company. Then you architecture that with a different mindset. Then we have to architecture that in a way that for different enterprise customers, with all the same level of security and efficiency they want to have it. We need to have that in mind while we play that game, and also while we do the upgrades and all those things. So yeah, that brings way more complexity for us.
What have been some of the problems that have surfaced with that increased complexity?
I mean, every distributed system is hard to manage anyway, and if it's, I mean, one thing we can say for clearly, we use the open source version, and with that, there is not a vendor you can call and say, hey, help me out, debug my system now, we do a screen sharing. It's like, okay, we dig into the code, check on the Git repo, what might go wrong, where does this error message come from. So to that, if you have we reach certain issues at certain scale now, which you have not seen before, and if you ask then in community, you also don't see many folks that have seen that before. So this means having this fast failure correction is a hard challenge for us also to keep. This is why the whole team is here to keep updated and know what's going on, because it's a fast changing system. And I think this is one of the biggest problems, or one of the biggest challenges. I mean, it's a nice challenge.
And so this means that you need to be thinking about failure all the time. And as I was like looking at these slides, you have backup in BOSH as well. Is that just due again to the resiliency and scalability that BOSH offers, and how does that increase the complexity in itself?
Yes, absolutely. So everything that manages something by itself needs to be managed by something. And this means the BOSH directory itself, there needs to be a backup of it, because, and this goes back to we have designed everything in that way that it's just immutable. Means, hey, if the BOSH directory goes down because one AC or one data center is completely down, then we need to be able to spin it up on another place without any major data loss, to just be back on track in a very short time frame. So this is also why the test frame and the failure testing is very important to us, to also challenge that if the architecture is right on what we do.
And so then the release management becomes an issue too, doesn't it? You got to really be thinking about that, first and foremost. Obviously, with a platform as a service environment, and that requires in continuous development. It requires you to easily be able to roll back. It has a lot of kind of other implications.
Yes, I think there are two main challenges when we talk about the release management, because there was also a lot of history how we evolved, and I think Stefan can greatly talk about that. One is how the users perceive it. And you have users on one side that build 12-factor cloud-native application. If you upgrade the platform, they are aware of that their app can be restarted without an issue. And then you have others that are used to the fact that their app is just running for years and maybe once in a while gets restarted. And if you do a platform upgrade, then it just gets restarted. And this is something we need to do. So the customer needs to be aware of that this can happen all the time. So this needed a lot of education. And then on the other hand, it's really also about Cloud Foundry has a fast pace in the releasing, and keeping up with that takes also for us quite an effort to integrate that in our pipelines and continuously deploy to the customer. So this is why we deploy first to our lab system, then we deploy every 2 weeks to our public, and once a month we deploy to our enterprise system with a certain lead time on the public environment that we know, hey, it's stable, and then we go there. But we need this monthly maintenance, basically, or this monthly life cycle to keep up with the pace.
So as a customer, then what are your requirements for release updates? And how?
On the platform?
Yeah, on the platform.
Well, basically our business expects that there are none or almost none outages, even during weekends, not only on work days, but 24 hours. So the expectation is everything is up and running. From the past, it's anyway like this, because in the past, on the past platforms, everything was up and running all the time. And when there was maintenance, there was some kind of agreed windows, and then you could shut down everything, you could patch it. We even had patching in a rolling mode in the past to overcome that or to fit that expectation to everything is up and running. So that's the kind of the baseline. And then we have different workloads. We have like these new innovative apps which are built newly on App Cloud or on Cloud Foundry, so they can handle things like restarts which happen periodically. That's not a problem. So these business apps, they are running constantly because they have multiple instances. They are built to lose an instance anytime. That's not a problem. But we also have a lot of legacy workload, and these are these apps which might run into outages if you just restart them. And so we were not able to change all these applications to be cloud native or 12-factor applications. So we still have those legacy applications, and there is some kind of trade-off, right?
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, so whenever they have to touch something or change an application or rewrite an application, they will transform into a more cloud native approach. So we will not basically change how the platform works, but it's more like applications have to adapt to that new world, and it also helps our developers or our business domains to go into a more cloud setup, which is actually the strategy and the goal, to have applications more and more running in the cloud, even public cloud. So it basically this migration of applications to app cloud helps us a lot to get more cloud native. Not fully cloud native, but it helps to adapt. It actually, it forces also sometimes developers to change the way how they implement something, like more fault tolerant applications. Latency sometimes is an issue. If you run everything on premise, you have a really low latency, and they're just used to it. And once latency increases because you're running on a cloud, or maybe if you run on Azure, then you run not even in Switzerland anymore. Yeah, you have to adapt to that so that your application is able to run on that.
Just to finish things up, you rewrote the platform as a service in Go, as I understand. Is that right or no? Were you using Go or no?
Yeah, we use. This slide here is showing. We use some management tools that we have built ourselves to manage our BOShes and our environments and our pipelines. And that one, we call it AMC, that one is written in Go.
Okay, great. And just in conclusion, I think continuous delivery has been still kind of like a major kind of factor here. And just for not only for your own internal development, but for your customers as well. So I'm curious on like how you view going forward from a continuous delivery perspective.
So in terms of speaking about the platform, or from a user perspective, how they deploy their apps on the
platform perspective, but you're building it for the user experience, right?
Clearly. What we see is that every enterprise we talk to and that have our application cloud installed, or also our new Kubernetes service, they have their own CI/CD systems where they have their clear processes and their development. So this then adapts to our platform, most likely, because we use standards like the certified Cloud Foundry standard or plain vanilla Kubernetes, which then can just talk to these CI/CD systems mainly.
So it seems to me that there's, that you can leave a lot of the complexity to Swisscom. They can manage the Kubernetes distributed environment. They can manage the Cloud Foundry open source platform itself, and your continuous delivery will evolve, just as the business demands change. But you'll be dependent on Swisscom to keep their architecture, in a place where it's, usable and valuable. Mm-hmm. So basic sums it up.
Absolutely. We are here to solve the complexity for the customer. This is what we earn money for, and this is where we try to do the best job.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been interesting to talk with you both about the evolution of Swisscom App Cloud, and
thank you, Alex.
Yeah, dating back to those early days, and then looking at how you're using BOSH and for not just for backup and a lot of purposes. So thank you very much for both of your time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanking for having us here. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Cloud Foundry Foundation is an independent nonprofit organization formed to sustain the development, promotion, and adoption of Cloud Foundry as the industry standard platform for cloud applications. Cloud Foundry is an application platform. It provides a choice of clouds, developer frameworks, and application services. Cloud Foundry makes it faster and easier to build, test, deploy, and scale applications. It's an open source project and is available through a variety of private cloud distributions and public cloud instances. Learn more at cloudfoundry.org. Listen to more episodes of the New Stack Makers at thenewstack.io/podcasts. Please rate and review us on iTunes, like us on YouTube, and follow us on SoundCloud. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.